Welcome back to the Renovating Retirement Podcast, where you'll learn how the retirement planning industry has been lying to you, how to spot those lies immediately, and how to protect yourself against the retirement heathen that run this industry. I'm Charlie Jewett.
And I'm Bobby Alford.
And together we've been crushing the lies of the joker brokers with the truth about retirement for years. And you probably want to stay tuned because, oh no, we think we're about to have another episode.
And welcome back to the Renovating Retirement Podcast. This is our second episode of 2023, early in January. My name's Bobby Alford. He's Charlie Jewett. And we have a special guest today, April Brown. April has been part of our team for just over a year now. She comes to us after a very, I don't want to toot your horn too much, but a very prolific and accomplished police officer in North Carolina. She retired. During her retirement year, she was like, I want to keep serving my community, so I'm going to learn financial services and I'm going to help. And so we wanted to bring her on, and so she can hear and talk about her unique viewpoint on what we cover here on this podcast. Charlie, take it away.
Yeah. And we say we thought what they're doing is so illegal. We brought a cop, baby, right? We brought a cop. Let's talk about this thing. Is this thing legal or not? I've been ranting for years, right? With no legal background or anything. I'm not an attorney, wasn't a police officer, or just this little punk from Pennsylvania, But I know the golden rule. Like I learned that at some point in my life, treat other people the way you want to be treated, right? And so when I came into the industry 2005 and saw the way things worked, I'm kind of used to coming into dark industries and trying to be a light, don't curse the darkness, light a candle kind of thing, right? Eventually I said, well, candle's not working. I got to start cursing out these joker brokers, right? So now we got a podcast totally devoted to ripping down the bad guys. But there's a reason for that. You don't talk bad about people because to make yourself feel bigger. You can tell the truth about people. For anybody who's listened to the earlier shows, I was a lot edgier in the beginning, I'm a little bit calmer now. Spiritual growth. Hey. So when someone's telling the truth, you give honor where honor's due. You say, I think that's really well said. I think that's really well said. I often say, I don't agree with everything this person says, but when they say that, when they tell the truth like that, that's accurate, right? I mean, take a president that you hated more than anybody in the world, like whatever president you want to pick that you just hated. And I am sorry, it's emotionally uncomfortable, but if that person says 2 + 2 is 4, you got to go with it. You got to side with the truth no matter who says what. So the reason I started the show in 2016 is I've been in the industry long enough at that point to go, man, this looks like it's mostly lies, like it's mostly deception or steering, and not teaching. And I'm from a teaching family, right? Both my father and brother are professors. My mom taught high school math for 2 different careers. Part of why I'm in the industry, And it's important. So we want to have a playful, fun conversation that's probably going to be super helpful for a lot of people and just say, like, here's the things that are done in this industry that are legal. Like, you can't get arrested. They don't have enough police officers to arrest all the joker brokers. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't. It would take like a couple of years or something. They have to do some heavy recruiting or something like that. Switch everybody over from other careers. There'd be too many of them, right? And they got all the money from ripping people off, so they know how to hide and flee and all that kind of stuff. It'd be a total disaster. But they can't be arrested because they're not really breaking the law. But morally, right? Like, and forget morally from even from a judgmental or a higher power standpoint. Let's just take it from what would you want? What would you do to another human being, or what would you want another human being to do to you? So let's start with what we talked about in the last podcast, Bobby, which is the annual earnings are reported inaccurately. They found a way to say you're making 8% when you're not making 8%. There's one way to do the math that has nothing to do with how much money you have, how much income you have, or whether or not you can retire. There's one way to take these numbers from past years and spin them to come up with a higher number than is the real rate of return. It's a useless number that only hurts you. And that's the standard. Do you believe Well, one, is it legal? We have to say yes, it's legal. So April, you can't go arrest anybody, you know? So like everybody on my team, I call them whatever, Candace, or call them Bobby. I say, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You can't arrest them, but let me just ask you, April, would you want somebody in your life delivering false information or information that hurts you in any way? Do you think any human being wants that?
No, nobody wants that.
No. I mean,
No.
there are some legal consequences to lying out there. Isn't it one of the things they look at in court? Like, or on a contract. You know, did you deliver on what you said? No.
Mhm.
Then you lied or you underperformed, right? So, Bobby, this is so popular. Every time we talk about it, you hear me kind of dumbfounded. I'm like, how could this possibly exist in our country? Why do you think this is legal?
So I have a couple phrases that I say back to you every time we ask this because we're still dumbfounded, right? Numbers don't lie, but liars use numbers. That's one of my favorites. And ultimately, I'm a capitalist at my core. This is marketing. Marketing dollars have educated the populace incorrectly. And I'll tee it up for you, April. You come at this from a service perspective. You were a client first, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of this, what did you think when you first learned this, right? So a lot of our listeners are going through this right now.
So the first time I heard it, what came to mind was I knew it. One, I never liked the market. And I always, my general feeling was that was a rich man's game. And it really wasn't for a working person like myself. However, I had to do something for my 401k. And it was like, pick. You can either be conservative, moderate, or aggressive. And I was like, well, what does that mean? I don't even know nothing about the market. What the hell?
Low risk, medium risk, or high risk? And you're like, where's the no risk? Where's the
Right.
I'm going to be okay investment?
Exactly. And so when I got exposed to the information and had the presentation done, I was mad. One, two, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Nobody's ever talked to me about this. I never thought about it in that way and in that kind of perspective. And now that I'm in it and I'm learning, after a full year, I'm just like, what in the Simony Sam's haberdashery is going
That's
on?
clean. That's clean for April, by the way. He was the sailor, but she got the sailor's mouth. I don't know how that
I'm
happened.
trying to keep it clean, folks. Don't be like,
No, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. I mean, and you will discover and you will get the disease I have, the frustration disease, right? Where and in other parts of life, people know how to think clearly. Here, they get very confused. You know, if you've been using the same babysitter for 10 years, and someone says, have you ever left a camera on or just decided to see how things are going? And you're like, never thought of it. You're like, well, I don't know. Don't just abdicate. Delegate a little bit. Like tell them to watch the kids, but make sure everything's going okay. So you put up a camera and you see this babysitter beating your kids. Smacking them in the face, right? Or hitting them with something, a piece of wood or whatever. What are you going to do? You know, very few people are like, well, I love capital punishment. I want someone else beating my kids with sticks. You know what I mean? Like, usually it's like, let's either agree on this ahead of time, or in our country, it's no beating the kids with sticks, especially if they're not your kids, weirdo. You fire them. You don't go, man, it's going to be a pain to switch. And I don't know. I'm going to find a new babysitter and then ask the old babysitter who's beating the kids if they think it's a good idea to stop paying them and switch. Hello? Right. But in our industry, ding, 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 we show the statement or the truth we just revealed. They've been using a false number to you, or we show the statement that says you've been averaging 6.5 when that number means nothing, and basically just pull the curtain back and go, this person is charging you fees, and they professionally lie to you. They have no control over where you end up. They basically, your arrangement is you pay fees, and if it works out, good. If it doesn't work out, it worked out for them.
Yeah.
And the person we tell that to goes, it's okay. It's what my mom did. Or, you know, it's hard to break up. Breaking up is hard to do when someone's beating your kids. Finding a new change is difficult. Just let those kids get bloodied. Change is hard, right? Somehow when we reveal, Bobby, to someone they've been lied to only in this industry, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, you hire you have a in-home chef. You find out they've been poisoning you. And then when you pass out and fall asleep, they're stealing your stuff. And as soon as you find out, you just forgive them and go, it's but I've made it so far up until this point. My dad got poisoned a lot, the same chef, and it worked out for him. No reason to switch. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. How do you discover someone's been lying to you and putting you in a strategy that only makes 6.25% over 23 years and the safer stuff without the fees, without the risk of loss, have been crushing it, and you just go, it's okay. It feels good. It's a drug, but there's a name for that in our country. When something feels good, but it's not good for you, we call that a drug. Look, I almost said narcoholic. That's not the word. Narcotics, right? They got their own police officers for that, right?
Yep.
We're like the financial DEA.
And so I guess to put this in another perspective, April, so as you've been learning this, right? We've had this conversation before when you were just a client. Like, right. What made you start investigating? I have a kind of an off the cuff comment where I say, if you don't come from millionaires have to come from you, right? And I know we had some very frank conversations in the beginning when we were going through this education process. And I know at times we all feel like we just don't know anything, or we should know these things, or what have you, right?
Right.
So a lot of the people that are listening to this are trying to get to that point. So why don't you walk us through the journey of when you're kind of making that decision, what then was revealed, and kind of where you feel like you're at now?
So funny you should ask. So about two years prior to my retirement, I was thinking, okay, my 401k, it's okay. It still hadn't recovered from 2008. Not where I was. But anyway, I knew I needed to do something with it when I retired. So I knew I had a short window to roll it over into something else because I didn't want to leave it where it was at. So I started this trajectory, and I was looking at, what to do, where to go. And somebody connected me to an organization. Then I ended up getting connected to another organization, and it just kind of it rolled from there. Then I met you. And after I met you, when you did the presentation, for me, it actually made sense. It just the 5 lives, the in case, the income, the increase, all of those things made sense in terms of how I viewed my money. And so my friends tell me I'm a unicorn because my parents, they talked to me about money, and they also tried to pass on as much as they could to me about money. But some of it was really incumbent upon me to learn. And so as I started learning, I started figuring out, there's some other things going on. But once, the presentation was done and I saw it, and I was like, that's pretty clear cut to me. This is what I'm going to do because it covers everything that I need to have covered.
I love intelligent people like that. She would know how to fire a babysitter. This girl could fire a babysitter.
I will fire the babysitter. No, fire the babysitter and arrest the babysitter. What are you talking about?
Exactly. That's the advantage. I can only do one of them, right? But you can actually do both of those things, right?
So with that, once I understood some basic things, I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. So in putting my money and coming up with a plan, that roadmap is the key. So once I had the roadmap, I was like, okay, we can always revisit that every year, twice a year, figure out what we're going to do. But in part of that, I also like the education. Like, I never had anybody educate me the way Bobby educated me in terms of looking at my money and thinking about my money. And I was like, oh, okay, I like that. And so from that kicked off this, I'm going to do this. If I've got nothing else going on in retirement, I don't want to be the police after I retire. Hell no, nobody wants to do that again. I was done, and I was like, okay, what else can I do? And I really love the educational piece about this. And so that's what was the driving factor for me. And that's what kept me like just forging ahead. Now, the first year has been hell on wheels. I mean, really. Lots and lots of stuff. There are days where I feel like I want to pull my hair out. And I was like, I got no hair on the side, y'all. I got no hair on the side.
And part of that difficulty, do you think in your life, your career, now in the retirement planning career, do you think part of that difficulty, that hell on wheels, is how resistant people are to change and to doing what's best for them?
Yes. And so
we're in industry, right?
It is. And what's interesting about it is because I deal because I came from a profession where we dealt with people, and you watch people and you see what people are going to do. What's interesting to me is coming into another profession where, one, I'm still serving people in a very different capacity, but still attempting to serve them, and figuring out, one, they don't know anything about finances, period. They just,
I think it's totally the same. You're a public servant and they all hate you for no reason, right? Like you try to help them and they punch you back. Like, what is going on here? No, there's no difference in our industry.
Exactly. And then I roll into another career.
I'm 20 years into people resisting arrest or whatever, and I can't lock them up. There's nothing I do about it. I just take the beating.
And they resist because they don't want to hear the information. And so then you look at them and you say, okay, well, what I presented doesn't make sense. It makes sense, but you don't want to leave her. You don't want to leave your joker broker. Okay.
That babysitter, that lovely babysitter with the stick.
And so with that, it's just, you think, all right, all I can do is provide you the information. Either you're going to get it or you don't, or maybe you'll circle back around to it. But I will say this is definitely a hard profession to be in, because people are so afraid to make a decision, and they're so afraid, and it's so emotional when it comes to money. Finances are one of the most emotional things you'll ever run across. And I told somebody today, I said, you'd rather get naked and show me a body part than tell me about your finances.
We all have our own style. That's Bobby says it all the time. We all have our own. I got a lot of analogies, but I never told anybody to get naked or naked, right? Your way or my way. I'm from Philly. I could say water instead of water, but I never said naked.
But it's true.
And I think you should start your appointments like that. Take off all your clothes. No, why? You're resistant? What I'm going to ask you to do is harder than that. Buckle up.
And so part of your journey, April, like this first year, you were learning a new industry, certainly, right? You were building a new skill set.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the market was going down.
Yes.
Yeah. We ended up at negative 18% this year, right?
Yes.
So what does everybody talk about? We got two things. We did a podcast episode on this. The Joker brokers, when there's losses, there's steak is one of the episodes we did, because they want to take you to dinner. They want to take you golfing. They want to be your friend when there's losses, right? But on the other side, once they have a loss, they being the potential clients, they get fearful of change.
Right.
Right? Even if it makes sense, even if they're going into something that's more stable or what have you, if it's different, Charlie and I have been talking about this recently, it's the only industry where people want to follow the average. They want to be with the masses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want the average body type. I don't want the average retirement savings. I don't want the average marriage in the United States of America. I don't want the average salary. But I want the average investment strategy, so I don't have to change, and I can be a robot and let that babysitter beat those kids.
And I call it the hand-me-down retirement plan. That's what we have. We have what our parents had. We have these tools that are advertised and just vomited at us over and over and over until we just believe it as gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so all of those things made this year difficult for you. But during that time, have you stopped and reflected on what your clients are going through versus how you came to a decision? Because you're the type of client that we want. We want someone who can see information correctly and make a decision.
Right.
That decision can be, I don't want Bobby and Charlie in my life.
Right.
Fine, but at least you have information.
Right.
Right. Most people see a great plan, the roadmaps we put together, and they say, why doesn't everybody do this? We say, well, everybody who sees this usually does. But most won't get to this point because they fear change.
Right.
So what made you different as a client where the math just made sense?
Part of it is I'm a decision maker. I mean, I retired as a captain and running a district and had people I was responsible for.
I don't know why we both want to clap right now. I've never clapped.
And so, but decision making has never been an issue for me. And so, but I've also never been afraid to lose, because my particular financial kind of whatever the spectrum I fall on, I actually fall on aggressive and will take a chance. And like, hey, if it loses, I'm okay. If it wins, I won big, baby. So that's where I'm at in my financial life. And so investing in that kind of thing, I don't mind taking the chance. However, to me, the numbers look, I was like, they look, they don't lie. They say what they say. And then you're like, listen, this is what it is. 2 plus 2 is not 5, April. But they told me it was 5. No, no, it's not 5. Yeah, I thought it was 4, but they kept saying it was 5.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
once I saw it, I was like, this is a no-brainer to me. I'm going to move because there are a couple of things that I'd already been seeing, just didn't know what to do. And so, the information you provided gave me a roadmap. And I was like, all right, I got it. I know which way I'm going to go. And I also know that there's always the opportunity, if something changes in my life, I can make that adjustment and we can say, okay, well, this is where you are at. This is what we can do, so on and so forth. And just what I have in place. Should I have a medical event? Woo, I'm covered. I don't have to worry about Uncle Sam paying for anything, not necessarily tapping into my liquid assets. I've got something that I can use that will help. So just the information alone made me just go, okay, this makes sense.
Don't cut me off. We're up to 20. Don't cut me off, Daddy. We're up to 20 minutes. Don't do it. I just want to say, Bobby, you guys both work with businesses. I didn't do a lot of work with businesses. You both work with businesses. Bobby does some incredible things that I've seen. We see this in another place, Bobby, don't we? If you go into a business and you say, I'm going to force so much growth into this thing, and then I'm going to show you how to sell it and be incredibly wealthy and defer the capital gains into perpetuity and whatever it is, right? And you go to make a change. Have you ever bumped into but this is how we do it here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Isn't that the enemy in a business entity, not a human, but in a business entity? If they go, but 40 years ago, before the internet, this is how we did it here. So we're not changing. We're not bringing on social media. We're not. What would that do to a company? Because I think it's an analogy for this is how I vote. Why are you in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds? Because that's just how we've done it in my family. What would happen to a business that wouldn't let go of old traditions?
Well, it's called Kodak.
Yeah, it is called Kodak. So Kodak actually created the first digital camera, and they didn't do anything with
Right.
So what I think of when I use a bunch of analogies that work for business owners, and one of the ones is the only constant in the universe is change. Mm-hmm. If you do not change, you do not evolve, you die. Yep. You're either getting better or getting worse. Yep. Another one that I use for entrepreneurs in particular is entrepreneurship is self-development disguised by profit. So you're only going to ever get as much money, as much income, your business is going to grow as high as you want if you change, you the entrepreneur. And that means change your business, change your leadership style, it's always the way we've done it is bullshit.
Mm-hmm. I gotta watch Rocky again, all of them.
Fear.
I gotta watch all the Rockies again.
That's it. That's it. And it's just fear of change. And I come in and I'm like, look, I have a roadmap. I do consulting. This is it. And we can change your business with this tweak and this tweak and this tweak, and your exit will look like this. It's just systems. Mm-hmm. And it is repeatable. Like people always say success leaves clues, right? And that's exactly what it is. Here's a roadmap. I can tell you for your retirement and I can tell you for your business. This is the roadmap. Yeah. You don't have to take it, but you're not going to get to where you want to go.
Right.
Yeah. We have
I think Charlie, you had a taxi analogy earlier when we were off camera.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let me find that. Right. You get into an Uber, you get into a taxi or an Uber and you go, well, they just start driving. Right. Now let's say it's a taxi because Uber, they already know where you're going. Say it's a taxi. You get into a taxi and they just start driving. You're like, I didn't tell you where I'm going yet. And they're like, well, you want to ride, right? Yeah. They're like, well, where am I going? I'll tell you when we get there. How long is it going to take? I'll tell you when I'm done. Shut up. Sit back there and talk on the phone or something. Stop talking to me. You put this money in the market, right? The only thing you know is how much you're putting in. How much is it going to be at 65 years old? Don't know. Tell you when you get there. How much income can you take from it when you get there? Don't even know when you get there. Every year will tell you when you run out of money how much you should have taken, right? How much is the government going to take in taxes? Don't know. They'll vote on it without your help every year based on their budget and their shortages for running the country terribly financially, right? Being like not having any money to pay for anything. The normal investment plan in the United States of America is I will choose to know the one thing that doesn't matter, which is how much I'm putting in right now and today's tax laws.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else about my future, I'm going to leave to chance.
Mm-hmm.
Hello? And we come along and teach, why don't you just buy income? Or why don't you just invest where you don't know the amount you're going to have, but it never goes backwards? Or why don't you invest where you don't know the amount you're going to have, but it never goes backwards and you will never pay taxes on it? Why don't you take some of these variables out, like no taxes, or guaranteed income for life, or guaranteed no losses? And people go, but that's change. And I love my abusive babysitter. I don't want that in my life. And they go, this is how we've always done it here. So, do we beat the dead horse over and over and over again on the podcast? We do beat the dead horse over and over and over again because it's not quite dead yet. Every once in a while, I see him still breathing, right? You haven't called me. I've made this offer so many times on this podcast, Bobby, and very few people take me up on it. You are always able to know 100% if you are with the right advisor. If you're with a different advisor than Renovating Retirement, you just go to that advisor and say, there's 8 billion people in the world, and I will stay with you if you debate Charlie Jewett and you win the debate. If you can win the debate against Charlie Jewett, where Charlie Jewett comes back and goes, you are better than me. Everything you're doing is what's best. I looked and I could not find a single improvement in this plan. They have won you. Because remember, 8 billion people in the world, and you pick somebody to give you advice, you stuck with what you get. And we can teach you some tricks. If there's certain companies they're with, there's no chance on this earth that you're getting the best retirement plan. If you're postponing everything till later and it's all a mystery, it's not even a plan, right?
Right.
But people don't want to offend the advisor for some reason, which is very odd. So they don't take me. I think the challenge would be incredible. It would make a great TV show. Charlie against the world. Come on, let's go. Right?
Isn't that funny how in this industry we have this blind faith in the advisor we get handed? If you happen to be in the military like me, like, here you go, this is the guy that comes to our base.
Yeah.
Or probably the same thing happened to April. Like, this is the one you get to choose from.
Right.
And we get so attached to them that we can't imagine divorcing them or breaking up with them. Like, it's going to matter so much to them.
Yeah.
And the reality is,
it's going to change. If you leave, they're going to not be able to eat anymore.
Yeah.
There are other people that they can rip off.
Yeah. We always say, if you don't have an annuity, you are someone's annuity.
Yeah. And that's not a by the way, this financial advisor is not a doctor.
Yeah.
You could study for 2 weeks. You could go to school for 1 week in California and pass the life insurance exam. And then we just had somebody get a Series 65. It took less than a year, right? So let's say it took you a year, 2 years to become a financial advisor with all the licenses. That's not a doctor. That's not somebody we look at and worship and go, I can't study for 12 years and know what this cow-shaped wart on the back of my head is. Help me, diagnose me. This is not an industry where we have information that's very, very, very hard for you to have or understand. We have access. You have to buy stuff through someone. The information is available, not on Google. Good luck, right? You do need a guide. You need somebody to take you through all the marketing. But your financial advisor is not to be worshipped and obeyed, is my point. They're a teacher, not a teller. They don't tell you what to do. They show you your options, and then you take charge and you do what you want. And if 6.25% before fees and before any of the changes, if making 5 or 6% with no guaranteed income and paying taxes is what you're looking for, then knock yourself out. But if you want a real financial plan with all the modern tech, just like every computer and iPhone's been updated a lot since the 90s, get in touch. Charlie at renovatingretirement.com, Charlie at renovatingretirement.com, or go to renovatingretirement.com and watch some of the videos. Reach out and go, I've said this for years. You can say, Charlie, I hate your personality. I don't trust you. Tell me what you got. I go, I don't care because I don't matter. You can hate me and you can not trust me, but 2 + 2 is always 4. And if I'm the only guy giving it to you, or I'll find somebody on my team that you like, because it's not just me anymore. I used to say that it was only me. Now we got a whole bunch of us.
And I would add, like, you kind of stumbled onto a metaphor I hadn't thought of before, which is even with doctors, specialists, and wonderful, like, educated people, what do you get if you get a bad diagnosis? A second opinion. And we don't do that in this industry. We just believe Chuck with the nice mahogany desk, he's going to tell us the right information, right?
Yeah.
And why not get a second opinion?
Or even with the second opinion, they go to somebody who they'll go to a family member or go to their neighbor, and you're like, okay, but do they do what I do?
Yeah.
And
So
you
your
go and
second
you-
opinion should be somebody who is at least comparable to what we do in the industry.
yeah,
And can give you a roadmap, right?
Mhm.
That's something we talk about a lot. Like what happens that I love the taxi analogy. If you're driving and you miss a turn, what happens? You recalculate.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you end up in DC when you're driving to Philadelphia, right? You recalculate, you get to your destination. And a lot of advisors don't do that. A lot of them who are captive cannot do that.
Right.
If they work for a joker broker and they're only allowed to sell these things, that's it. Now, in this industry, Charlie and I say all the time, I don't want you to need me in your life. I want you to want me in your life.
Mhm.
I want to show you all the math, all the things we're using, free calculators, free everything that you can look up yourself, give you the IRS tax code, all those things. Then come back and say, I want Charlie and Bobby and April to help me navigate this because they have shown me a good education and I want to move forward. I never want to be the guy that's like, don't look over there. That's where the answers are. I need you to go eat steak with me.
And I think in this industry, second opinion in the medical industry is perfect language and perfect analogy in our industry, because opinion is kind of a problem. I'd say get a second quote. And here's what I mean by that. You don't want to take a guaranteed income plan to anyone else and go, what do you think of this? Because the first thing they're going to think is, I'll make you money if you buy it. So they're going to find something to talk bad about. You take a guaranteed lifetime income financial plan, retirement plan, and take it to somebody and go, can you beat it?
Mhm.
Can you give me more guaranteed income?
Yes.
And they want to start talking about the company. You go, I didn't ask you for your opinion, big boy.
Mhm.
Calm down, right? You're no doctor. Show me. How long did you go to school? No, calm down over there, right? Can you beat this? Can you give me, by the way, do you even have guaranteed income for life? And when they say, no,
Right.
we're investment advisors, we have higher upside potential, just go, goodbye. That's like going to a doctor for an opinion and then going to a veterinary for a second opinion. Like you walk in, you go, do you work on humans? They go, no, you don't need their opinion. Who cares, right? What are they going to do? They're going to neuter you, right? You know what I think you need? I think you need to not have babies anymore. I don't care what you're feeling. Just don't multiply.
That's a terrible analogy.
It's twice in one day. If people are paying attention and watching all of our videos, everybody on my team tells me my analogies suck.
It's terrible.
Can you feel the love? Terrible.
So in conclusion, I'm going to just get us back on track there. In conclusion, April, what information would you have loved to have had before you started this journey yourself? And what information do you want to impart to people? Say, hey, this is just education. This is eye-opening to me. Like, give me some bullet points. What was eye-opening?
Okay, so 3 things that I would have loved to have had. Somebody telling me about annuities and IULs and those types of things. That would have been great information. Somebody actually saying, hey, 401k is nice. You can still get that, but why don't you think about putting your money into something else that will grow?
Your options. You wanted to know your options.
Options.
The competing
options.
investments. Yeah.
And the third piece would have been just to understand how all of that works, like really understanding how all that works. You know, what are the true numbers? What does compound interest mean? So on and so forth. That would have been great for me. Now, what I'd like to impart off to people is know your options. That's key. And if you don't understand it, ask gazillions of questions. We answer them. And if we can't answer them, we'll find the answer and come back to you with an answer. And
That's
3, trust the process. Trust, if you're feeling like I'm not sure about this, then really question that and why you're not feeling sure about something. And then ask us again, and we'll be like, okay, well, maybe we'll provide you with some additional resources and information. That would be my 3 takes on it.
Okay, I love it. Charlie, you got anything to add? Wrap it up.
Always, but I need to not add anything because we're at 31 minutes. You know, you've heard me talk about it. We took some notes before. I just think let me leave people with this thought. Yeah, because we brought a cop on to say, like, would this be okay? Imagine, April, if 30% of the flights that people took, just 30%, not like 99% like our industry, right? The 30% of the flights that people got on the commercial airlines either went down Or had you land in a different city than you planned on? Or had like a mystery destination? What do you think like passengers would do? You think we'd have just as many people flying or maybe a little bit less?
Probably quite a few less.
Quite a few less, just like if the taxis decided where to take you. So please, 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 precious listener of ours, we do love you. Please, if you're in an investment strategy where the one who's guaranteed to win is the advisor, because they're using a strategy from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that still pays well but doesn't work well for you, and the arrangement is you don't know where you're going, where you're going to end up, or whether you're going to be okay, or if you're just going to frankly go down and burn. Right? Running out of money in retirement is going down and burning. If you're in that strategy, but like April, you don't know the competing strategies. No one's ever shown you, well, the technology's upgraded a little bit in 40 years, right? Get in touch, Charlie@renovatingretirement.com, and look at the other strategy. You can still say no to us. Trust me, people become really good at that. Anybody in the industry, it's a lot of no's and a lot of people say yes. Gather the information. Because when you have the information inside your incredible genius mind, you know your goals better than anybody, you know your finances better than anybody. If we get what's in our head into yours, and you get your goals, what's in your head into ours, that friendship, that conversation, that sharing of ideas is magic. And nobody regrets doing that.
And just like it says on our website, retirement is about clarity, not trust. You don't need to trust it. We're going to give you all the tools and resources. You go dive into it. You're a genius when you see clearly. All right. He's Charlie. She's April. I'm Bobby. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Renovating Retirement. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have time, please subscribe to the podcast and consider rating and reviewing the show. That will help others find us. And for show notes, resources mentioned, and to connect, head on over to renovatingretirement.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Renovating Retirement.